financial crisis. I think a couple of days ago, G20 ended and produced a certain result, but I think that just as the last November, where G20 was held in Washington, D.C., I think the basic problem right now is that the U.S. side and the continental Europe are still divided on the issues of how we should re-regulate the financial system, globally speaking. And I think that Japan's role, if there's anything, I guess, Japan needs to play a third-party role in bridging the gaps between the U.S. and continental Europe's opinions. I think, we cannot have two different standards in financial activities, globally speaking. I was in the financial industry working as an economist, writing economic reports every week. And of course, I was in a U.S. or European-based companies operating in Tokyo, and I would write a report in English, and then it was kind of distributed across the globe. Asian markets and how they are quickly developing over the last few years, we must kind of start thinking about Tokyo and Asia as at least the regional center of financial meetings where things are being decided. So I think that's where Japan must play a more important role there. And I would love to hear your opinions regarding this later on. Thank you very much.
What do you see Japan's role being in that, or if at all? Like managing the rise of China, or just making sure that the U.S. ensures stability or security or whatever for Japan?
Answer to your question, but I think this is more, I think, a political aspect that I'd like to just point out, is that Japan is located within Asia. Of course, there are neighbors, China, Singapore, Hong Kong, and so forth. But obviously, when we are adjacent to countries that follow different political systems, for instance, China follows a socialist system. Singapore is democratic, but in a sense under very strong leadership, which is quite different from Japan's political system. So when different countries with different political systems are adjacent to each other and forming a regional economic region, then I think there is a little bit of a problem, because Japan is a country of very slow policy-making process, decision-making process. Obviously, especially right now, what we call the twisted phenomenon between the upper house and the lower house. Upper house, we have DPJ as the dominant party, whereas the lower house, we coalition party of LDP and Komeito party have the predominant amount of seats. So it takes kind of too much time to make up a decision in the Diet. It may be the cost aspect of democracy. Following a democracy takes time and requires a lot of cost in that respect. But when we are adjacent to countries with different political system, where, for instance, in China, top leadership can make up decisions for the entire country, for instance, press forward strong economic policies, then the end result is that when we look at the result, China is making up quickly the policies and making results, whereas we are still fighting in the Diet to make a single mind, a single decision. So when it comes to bringing up economic results, who will win? That is a big question. I mean, the political system may have something to do with the results.
And how about the willingness of the Japanese people, Japanese government to promote the ASEAN countries unity? Because I think this is, when you're talking about integration in the Asia, integration in the politics maybe it's quite difficult. We have the different political view, but when you're talking about financial, even though China today, they embrace very liberal economic policy, it's not really different with another country. So what willingness the Asian countries unite in terms of financial crisis? Thank you.
I don't have a very thought out opinions on that yet, but I think and when you look back at what happened in the euro area, for instance, when they converted a single currency unit, so of course, obviously, they had one single central bank as well. And so under the single central bank, they have to maintain a single interest rate, policy rate. Whereas if you look at the different countries that belong to the euro area, of course, small countries have their own rate of inflation. So quite naturally, if there is no single central bank and each country following different monetary policy under different central bank, then obviously they can follow different interest rate scheme, given different rates of inflation to adjust for their own economic situation. And that kind of liberty in monetary policy will be lost when currency gets unified. So if you think about that in terms of the Asian context, of course China, for instance, has a very high demand for commodities and so forth to maintain the growth rate of the economy, pushing up the interest rate. So China quite naturally should need higher rate of interest compared to maybe Japan or other countries in Asia. So where do we adjust that? Do we start from forming a single currency, excluding China? Where, I mean, we have to think about that kind of details to really see whether or not the single currency unit is viable in Asian context.